So good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Um, I'm so excited today. And like I said, my sincere apologies. We're having technical issues today, but that won't stop us. The guy that we are talking to today is a tech guy. I think Zoom just decided to act up on the very day that we are talking to a tech guy. But thankfully we are recording, and so if there is people who would be able to would not be able to join, but they can listen to the recording, that's even fine and good. So Mr. Pilirani, most welcome. I'm really excited to have you today. You are, I think, the second guy we are talking to in this series, and I've been excited from the word go, because when we talk about women empowerment and gender equity, it's not just about women, it's everyone else included. And I think we need to get to a place where we can really work together and listen to each other and support one another, because for gender equity and women empowerment to really be effective, it has to be very inclusive, and it has to include everyone, and everyone's opinion need to matter. So I'm very, very excited to have you today. I'm gonna do a quick introduction about who you are. When you and I and our team spoke the very first time and we were getting to know you, what I learned from you is that you are a guy with so many passions. That sounds like me. Very interested in so many things, but also you're someone who is who doesn't just sit and look at things. You are a doer. You want to be out there doing things and making impact. And so I'm really excited to have you today, because I know that people are going to learn one or two things about you. When you introduced the project that you're working on and all the other things that you do in your personal life, it was the very first time that I heard about it. And so I also hope that you're going to talk about that a little bit today, so that people can get to know what exactly you're doing. But if I am to read your introduction here, like I said, you're a very multi-talented, multi-passionate person. You're very passionate about personal development, education, as well as technology. And so one of the things that you're working on right now is integrating education into technology into education, which is really good. I think everyone needs that, especially where the world is going right now. You are the country lead representing Malawi for the Global EdTech Hub. I want you to talk about that later. You're also the founder of 3 different startups. There is Padziwe, there is Infinite Solutions, and you have another startup that's called Soar to Infinity. I want to know all about that, and I know that people on this platform would also like to know you in that way. So before I proceed, I always tell everyone that, I know, so I can hear that's Pilirani. He has passion in so many things, but at the core of that, there is a person called Pilirani, and I want to know that side of you as well. Like, what do you do in your personal life other than, working on your startups? Who are you? Where are you coming from? And where are you going? What's your family like? And stuff like that, because I think that connects us. We can relate. Maybe I might be someone who has never had a startup, or I'm not a founder, but I can relate with someone personal about you. And I want people to know who you are in that regard. So the floor is yours, sir. Thank you so much for making time for us. I know we can never take this for granted. I know how busy you are. It was very hard to get hold of you, but thank you for making the time, and I'll give you the floor right now.
Right. Thank you so much, Toko, for that wonderful introduction. It's an honor to be here talking to these wonderful ladies and under the We Inspire brand. It's one of the highlights of this year, actually, that I've put in my diary just to be here. So it's an honor. I'm the last born of a family of 4 people. So I'm the last born, was born in 1985. Lost my mother and father before I was like 15 years old, and pretty much just grew by myself. I think I was cursed with with this disease that you mentioned of just doing a lot of things. I think my biggest problem is I get bored easily with things. So whenever I have like free time, I want to create something. I want to do something. So that's why I ended up doing like so many things, like starting a few startups there, and also managing this position that I have with the EdTech Hub. But basically, in my personal life, I love doing music. I love creating, writing, producing, performing music. I have a few songs under my belt that are still in my closet that haven't seen the light of day. And I also like playing basketball. Yeah, I love basketball. I think there are only three places that you can guarantee to find me. I like staying home. If I'm not home, I'm at the basketball court. If I'm not at the court, then I am in the studio or I'm at work doing one of the works that I'm doing under these 4 initiatives that you just mentioned. So that's basically who I am on a personal level. And the reason why I was excited to do this talk is because when you look at the status of the world in terms of the disparities that exist between men and women, I think it's one of the saddest things that also me on a personal level get me depressed usually, because you hear stories and you look at even how men act towards women, like, just because I'm a man, so I'm always hanging out with guys, and you hear their comments, you see their perspectives and the things that they're talking about. It just gives an impression that most men do not put a lot of value on what women can do, and just look at them as sexual objects. And that's one of the reasons why I came here and said, you know what, I think we need to talk about this because this is such an important topic. So if that's okay, maybe we can get to it.
Absolutely. But maybe before we get to it, I know I'm excited to hear about that. Tell us a little bit about your education.
Right. I moved around a lot in my primary school and secondary school days because my father, before he passed, he was a contractor. So he used to work with Fargo and SR Nicholas, constructing roads and markets. So we never really stayed in one place. So I think I'm not going to go into all the primary schools that I attended in the interest of time. But I attended Mzuzu University for 4 years. I did library and information science. Actually, just last year, I was chosen as one of the outstanding alumni for Mzuzu University because of the contributions that I've made to society since graduating. So yeah, I don't have a master's degree. I'm not studying for one. I just have bachelor's degree in library and information science. But when I got out, I started working as a teacher. But in the 2010s, we didn't have a lot of books. We had a few computers. So that's when I started thinking about taking these books and putting them in digital format so that the kids can start using computers as well. And that's where the idea of my first startup, Padziwe, was born, where we started digitizing things, making them more interactive, more animated, so that kids can get excited again about school and not get bored and achieve their learning outcomes. So basically, that's who I am, educationally and professionally.
Awesome. I'm going to ask you questions about Padziwe and the other initiatives later because I'm very interested to know about that. I mean, for the audience to know about that. But let's get into the topic today. So when we spoke at the very beginning, you wanted to share like perspectives on women in our growth. And I think that's very important subject. During this series, we've touched different areas of our growth and economic empowerment and like policies and other things else. But I think this is very unique because there is certain things that as women we do that sabotage us. There's certain behaviors that we carry on in our lives. Yesterday, we talked about traumas that we carry that impact our behavior and our outlook and how people interpret that behavior in the society. That puts us into a disadvantage. And I know that you've worked with women, you've been in a high position, in a position of influence, that you've done hiring, recruitment, you've talked to women leaders and so on and so forth, and you've observed all these things. And I'm hoping that you're going to bring that out today so that we can learn from your perspective to say, how best can we behave? How best can we improve? And so let's get right into it.
Right. I should start by prefacing this talk by my disappointment in the way we men, not women, but we men, as me, as one of those gender, I think we have failed our responsibility to, instill the kind of confidence, the sense of safety, the sense of security in the women that we are associated to. I think when you hear the stories that are coming out, women suffering just because they have those parts as a woman, and because of the abuse that they suffer from men. I was talking to somebody who is a friend of mine. He was doing a documentary on the sex trade that has been happening in Malawi secretly, where these women are promised paradise, and they're given visas and passports and transport money to countries like Jordan, for example. And then one of these women came back home, I think late last year, and the BBC were following up on that story. So they had him to do a documentary on it. So he traveled to Kotakoda. But the stories that she told, the kind of abuse that she was subjected to just because the men from that side wanted to use her sexually, it's something that is unheard of. Every day you look at stories where women are cheated upon, for example, in marriages, right? Some woman called me, was it on Saturday? He was like, you know what, this person, you've worked with this person before, and now he's cheated. Now he has a baby with another woman, right? So it's not just isolated incidents. I think it's something that you hear every day. Women, I think, suffering the most because of the just being born a woman, but also being in a vulnerable position because they trusted a certain individual to spend this life together, to be their shield and stuff like that. And then we men, I think, have just, I know there's a few men here, but I don't think you're going to blame me, but I feel it deep down inside that as men, I think we have failed our responsibility to be there for women. Not that we are just mandated to be protectors of women, but I mean, in society, that's what we're expected to do. So I think we have failed that responsibility. And the reason why we want to talk about this today is so that we can now discuss what women can do to make sure that they can create that kind of value that can make them self-sustainable. I know we have a lot of men who are killing it out there, who are self-confident, who know what they're worth. But also, on the other hand, there's a lot of women who, when they get married and they look up to a man, like, oh yeah, I think I have it made and everything else. And then things start going downhill. Maybe after 5 years or so, just this man is not being there and doing the work that the responsibility that he's supposed to do to make sure that he's such kind of an individual. Now, what I wanted to focus on a lot on this one is the process of self-development, right? There was a talk where Lindiwe, I think I attended that talk, Lindiwe Koswe was talking about sexual harassment at the workplace. You could listen to the stories one after another, of girls, of ladies being depressed in the workplace because maybe their supervisors want to sleep with them. And because maybe they have refused, now they start facing consequences, right? Maybe not being paid at all, or just being shouted at, or just being disciplined without just cause. So you look at those issues, and now you start wondering, how much value do I, as a woman, am I conceived to contribute to this initiative, to this workplace, to this organization, whatever the case may be, if I'm just looked upon for my sexual nature, as a woman, just somebody just want to take advantage of it. So I wanted to expand that conversation a little and say, I think a lot of women are a little bit slackish when it comes to the process of personal development, when it comes to the process of creating the value within themselves that make them so indispensable when they get to a workplace. I'm not saying that everybody who faces that has that problem. No, I'm not saying that, because they're just difficult people out there, regardless of how important you are. They may just want to use you for their own selfish desires. But I have also experienced, a lot of interactions with women working together, and see like this person or this woman, this lady, literally has no additional value apart from maybe the beauty that she has. All right. So I think I wanted to emphasize that today and dwell this talk on that element of, the need for a girl, for a lady to create that value. Because when you create that value, you make yourself indispensable for people to get rid of. There are people who have been fired because they refuse to sleep with the boss. Those cases are many. Maybe they may not be documented because maybe the woman didn't come out, or maybe it's hard to collect statistics on that. But it's a fact that a lot of people, a lot of women will get fired, maybe using a pretext or another excuse just because they refuse to give in to the sexual demands of somebody else. But think about this. If a woman can make herself become so valuable at a workplace, say, you know what, if we get rid of this woman, I think maybe this department or maybe this entire organization might be in jeopardy because of the value that this person brings to the organization. So already you have already eliminated the possibility of you facing these other issues because you have created value for yourself to become a person who cannot easily get rid of because of the process of these personal development issues. All right. There are issues to do with marital infidelity, especially for people who have been married. Men going out there having multiple affairs, having multiple kids in the villages, I mean, in town or whatever the case may be. I'm not trying to justify, and I would never justify that behavior. But me, as somebody who has been talking to men, in our informal chats, I can tell you for sure that one of the reasons is because the man feels like the woman is not providing any value in his life because of, maybe she's not working, maybe she's not bringing in anything, or maybe even in the family itself, maybe she's not playing her role to the betterment of the whole family in general. So you find that you have this conversation with men like, I'm frustrated with my wife. Even the conversation that we have, I'm talking about this and she's talking about this. All right. So I think it's high time that women prioritized, fixing what's up here. All right, think bringing substance in their minds to make sure that even if you're not able to work, but when you're at the family level, you have like meaningful conversations with your husband or with your partner regarding how you can make your life better together. Because those are some of the things that end up bringing frustration in men, and these are the kind of things that cause some men actually justify it to actually go out there and start screwing around. All right. I think you agree with me that there's a lot of women who spend a lot of time, more resources, more money on how they look, as opposed to how much value they have. All right, so there are women like who buy expensive makeups. Not that the thing is wrong. They'll buy expensive hair, and then when they start opening their mouth to talk about something else, it's just like, what is this? All right. I think that is one of the problems. I understand the fact that, a woman needs to look beautiful. And I want my woman to look beautiful all the time because, we're taking photos. Sometimes you post on the status. You don't want your woman to be looking like something else. But there's a balance that needs to be struck. All right. As a woman, I think one of the biggest mistakes is that we prioritize our outlook. The amount of time, resources, and money we are applying on ourselves to look good. Now, when that is the case, you ask yourself, like, okay, so what is the meaning of this? All right. If you are spending, let's say, 70% of your budget to look good, all right, and you just spend 30% of it, what does that mean in real life? All right, it's the reason why that some people now start misinterpreting the motives of men and starting getting, mixed signals and say, oh yeah, I think I have a chance with that. All right, I can do that. She's putting all this kind of stuff, and let me see how that goes. And then when that doesn't go well, there are these consequences that start following up. As I said, I need to repeat that I am not against women looking good, but I think most of the women not that I know, but because if I say that I know, some people will start getting ideas here. But most of the women on this side of the world, I think, spend far more time. The percentage of time and resources they invest in looking good cannot begin even to compete with the amount of resources they spend in actually being a good and valuable person. So that when you come to your family, you have so many things to offer. Because the thing is, I think there's a lot of women now who are stuck in bad relationships, marriages especially, because they have no other place to go. They have nowhere else to go. If they leave that marriage, it's game over. That's the end of them. So that puts them in a very vulnerable position. And I wouldn't want any woman to be in that kind of position because it just makes you so vulnerable. Like you give a license now to this man to do whatever he wants because he knows that you cannot do anything. You cannot stand on yourself. But the thing is, we are given almost the same amount of resources, the same amount of time in a day so that we can create the value for us to start being, important contributors to society in whatever way that we can want. All right. So I really wanted to emphasize that point and maybe start a conversation before I get to the second part of it, so that I hear what you guys think on this call about what I've said so far.
We want to throw stones at you. I'm kidding. But I like that this is a very candid conversation. And I think when we spoke at the very beginning, we talked about this, that we want this to be a really like candid conversation, no judgment, but just the truth out there. And I really like the direction that we are taking, that, at a certain point, we need to think as women to say, other than my beauty, other than my femininity, what else am I bringing on the table? And that table can mean anything, can be in your family, in your relationship, intimate relationship with your partner, with your husband, with your boyfriend, but also it could be in your friends' circles, right? We need to begin to have these conversations. I remember that Tamara, I think Tamara was here, and she talked about these things that, there was a time she had to rethink how she's also using her money, to say she realized that a lot of her money, and when she calculated it at the end of the year, it was over a million Malawi kwacha just was going on makeup, and that doesn't include transportation to the salon and back, and the buying the resources that she needed to look good. So we need to take a step back and really look at ourselves and think about what other things are we bringing on the table, and specifically for us to become that person who can create and provide value into the society. So I really like that. I want to pause a little bit and see if there is any reactions from our audience, or if there is any questions or someone has a comment. There is silence in this room. Okay. Great. So yeah, Pilirani, we can go ahead and go to the next thing. But I think I just like I like this conversation. We need to Tamandan says, I feel attacked. Yes, I think when we feel attacked, I feel the same, but I think it's something that we need to reconsider and rethink, to say, Mwanyongo, do you have a comment?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
We can hear you. Go ahead. Oh, sorry. I was actually I was confusing this with Google Maps, where you have to raise your hand. So I was looking for that. My comment goes on the point. You said a point whereby you said that there are times when you want to talk to your woman and she's not bringing anything more productive to the conversation. But then my question is, for example, I'll speak personally on myself. When I spend the whole day at work, I don't want to come home and talk about something productive. I don't know if that makes sense. Whereby you don't want to talk about anything to do with work. You don't want to talk about anything to do with everything that you talked about, that you expect your woman to say. Would that be considered? I know, I understand that you can't always be that person. There are times when you see video, okay, and then there are times you're like, this person is just nonsense. But what if you do meet a woman who's busy during the day, and then after she knocks off work, she just wants to relax. She doesn't want to talk about building anything. She doesn't want, is that like some sort of red flag? I don't know if I can call it that, or yeah, that was my comment / question.
Yeah, that's a very good observation. So when I speak about being valuable, it's like all the time, right? I mean, we all juggling, like most of us are like working 2-3 jobs, and then we are exhausted at the end of the day. Even I myself, when I get back home, I don't want to have these heavy meals of conversations about, geopolitical topics or whatever is going on. I just want to have a light discussion, when I would jade a little with my woman and stuff like that, right? But there are times, because I mean, our future is staked upon these factors, right? There's finances, there's how we're going to deal with the kids, there's education, there's like future plans, like our investment portfolio and stuff like that. These are heavy conversations that maybe you can have on a weekend or stuff like that. But you find that most women, when you have a conversation with them, they would not be able to contribute anything meaningful. Like, you know, whatever you think is best. You know, so you at that point you just start feeling alone. So to your point, yes, there are days where we understand we are all tired, we can't get into heavy conversations, but then there are times like maybe on a weekend, or maybe at the pillow talk, for example, like, you know, what do you talk about during pillow talk, you know? So all that kind of stuff, I think, feeding into that. I'll give you an example of this other girl. I was having a conference at BICC, so I had to rush home. So I got out of the BICC through the exit gate that opposite Capital Hotel, and I found this must be like 16 years old, right? Like, she's beautiful, good looking, and then she stopped me, like she's waving me down so I can give her a lift. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm alone in the car. I might as well just give her a lift, with honest intentions, right? So I give her a lift, and then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have a conversation. What do you do? Like, I'm doing school. I just wrote my MSCE. Like, what do you want to do? Like, no, I don't know. Like, I'm figuring it out. Now, it's okay not to know what you want to do, because there's a process of discovery, right? But then what she started saying next now actually gave me a right idea about who this person was. So she was actually standing there so that the man would give her a lift and then probably just sleep with her and stuff like that. So like, she'll actually go to a point where, like, you know, don't keep asking me those conversations, those questions, you know. I don't want to get into those conversations. I think she was frustrated because then her goal was not achieved. And this is a representation of what so many girls are now getting into. They just focus on, you know, looking good so that a certain man can see them. And then, you know, they get into a relationship, and then he, you know, this blesser thing, right? You can give her money on a monthly basis and stuff like that. And literally that's just their plan for their lives, which is kind of sad. That's why I'm saying, you know, I think it's high time that women really started prioritizing, you know, the process of self-development, personal development, which is something that I'm getting into right now. Now, personal development just focuses...
Before you get into there, I just wanted to say something that, you know, that our behaviors between men and women, when it comes to self or personal development, or adding value to ourselves and the conversations that we contribute in the community, is very different. You should look at an average man, what he spends time doing in his free time, and an average woman, what they do in their free time. I think that matters a lot. You'll find that, you know, even when men are together, the kind of conversations that they're having, and when women are together, women, a lot of times, on average, men are discussing, you know, like business ideas. You know, what are you doing? What are you up to? How do we make money? How do we give each other opportunity? Women, on the other hand, we are doing something totally different, even when we are in our circles. And I think that speaks a lot to how we see ourselves. And to the point of Manyongo, I don't know what's your first name, but the thing is, I think when you are in a community, or when you have a partner, for example, let's just leave it there, that when you have a partner, right, they want to look at you as someone they can relate to, and they can depend on, and they can, you know, bounce ideas with. And if you are that person who is always empty, you cannot, and honestly, you cannot pour out from an empty vessel. So you need to enrich yourself with information, knowledge of what's going on around you in the world. And you do that by adding value to yourself every day and striving for that, because trust you me, men are doing that on a daily basis. We need to do the same.
Oh, thank you so much for nailing that one on the head. The process of personal development is just basically talking about you being the best version of yourself. Like, I was created, but there's a ceiling that I can reach as a person. There's this ceiling that I can reach. Now, as I'm growing up, as I'm going into the world, what level or how high am I going to get to this ceiling that I was created for? All right. For those of us who believe that we are created by God. So that is the struggle now that personal development strives for you to push forward to. Like, this is your potential, that you can reach these levels, but what level are you going to reach by the time your time is done here on earth? All right. So personal development looks at all the areas of your life. All right, we're talking about the finances, just being okay there. We're talking about, most important, I think, the social capabilities that you have, the way you handle people, because that determines how you handle your partner as well. And most of the problems come from our failure to handle our partners. Like, they are saying one thing, but we interpret it as a different thing, and then we respond differently, and then there is no cohesion. And then you talk about issues of the spiritual life. I mean, everybody has a spiritual longing, for example, like, you know, I want to know who created me, I want to know where I came from, why am I here, and all this kind of stuff. So there are so many areas of personal development that help build you into a person. But I'm just going to talk about the basics in terms of what helps us push forward. And the first one is specialized knowledge. All right, what specialized knowledge can you, as a woman, be employed for? Like being paid, for example, let's say even $500 a day. All right, like if we hire you for $500 a day, what specialized knowledge are you bringing to us so that we can push the mission for which the organization was created forward? All right, then you talk about I think that's something that you can ask yourself. Every woman needs to ask herself. Are you going to handle the comments in the thing? I'm just going to keep going.
Go ahead,
please.
We're gonna do the comments later. Just go ahead. I'm watching that.
Right. Thank you so much. So you talk about those aspects. What specialized knowledge are you bringing? Because the fact that you are born, I mean, automatically you're expected to contribute to the progress of humanity. Right? Humanity has so many problems. There are so many problems that even if we list them one by one, we may not be able to exhaust all of them. So as a member of the human species, right, what is your contribution for us to solve these problems? I think that's what everybody needs to be asking themselves first. Because if you might say, oh, well, I don't want to have that global perspective. But at the end of the day, you're going to get married. And when you get married, it's not just the man who's just going to be looking at solving these problems. So as a woman now, you have to ask yourself, what capabilities do I have? What specialized knowledge do I have I generated for me to be a valuable member in whatever space that I find myself, whether it's a church, it's a football club, a basketball team, a family, workspace, everywhere that you find yourself. What contributions can people get from you? That's specialized knowledge that's going to lead to, you know, revenue generation and stuff like that. Secondly, your character as a person, right? What kind of virtues do you have that make people gravitate towards you? All right, you agree with me that so many women are just like so repulsive with the way they talk to people, even strangers. Like, this is, oh, I don't like this person. Like, why don't you like this person? Well, I don't know. There's just something about them. You know, like, dude, just have an open mind, get to know the person first, have a conversation with them, and then see for yourself if they are somebody you can like or you can go out with, you know, as women, as friends. So I think the character side is one of the most important side that is sabotaging a lot of women for them, that is preventing them from actually getting to the next level because of the way we talk, because of our attitudes, because of the way we see things in everything else. All right, and then there's certain skills that we that as women can push. I think this is just for everybody, but since we're talking about women, I'm just going to stick to that. Issues to do with communication, for example, right? The way you speak, you know, you can have specialized knowledge, you can have good character, but have you honed the skill of articulating yourself and making your point come across? You know, for people to understand clearly exactly what you're talking about. One of the biggest frustrations that I've heard from men, to be honest, is the issue of, you know, when you're having a disagreement, for example. The man says one thing and the woman interprets it as a different thing. All right. So clearly there's an issue that has to be looked at in terms of how we perceive the incoming message from the person. Like, what is he trying to say? Follow up with questions. Okay, what are you trying to mean? It doesn't even matter like if you ask like 10 follow-up questions, because the point is for you to understand him. And for him, the point is for him to be understood, right? So we need, I think, to fix this as women. This element of trying to understand what other people are saying and then being in a position to respond to that particular point, because most of the times you speak to a lot of women, this issue comes up, like I'm saying this and she's taking the conversation to another area. So now we have diverted from, so the thing that I presented is still not solved, and this now graduates into bigger problems that start affecting the relationship or whatever that is, and then things just go bad to worse from there. So that's one of the things that I think, as you're pushing for personal development, one of the things you have to keep an eye out for.
Pilirani, if I can, yeah, if I can interrupt you a little bit, I do a lot of coaching for women, and one of the key conversations that we have is about communication. How do we present our ideas as women? You know, women are so brilliant. We are so creative, and we can multitask, something that you guys are not good at. And I bet that with everything that I have. But our challenge is articulating our ideas in the best possible way, so that the other person can really, we have these problems even within ourselves, within the circles of women, that, you know, you begin a conversation and for some reason, someone will blow up that conversation irregularly and it will go a different way. And you begin to think about, no, but we are talking about this issue and not your misinterpretation. And then emotions come in and it escalates into, it's very frustrating even within us as as women. So I just wanted to allude to that communication is something that we as women, we really need to master. How do we present our ideas? I've been a supervisor in so many different, you know, work environments, and I've dealt with people in the capacity of human resource as well. You find a person who has a genuine concern at work, in the work environment, right? She feels that they're not being treated right. You know, there's things like, but the way they will present that issue to their supervisor is all about complaining, all about the victim mindset, all about, and so the other person, when they're interpreting that, all they're seeing is that you're just crying, a crying baby, and like there's no substance in what you're and there's no, you know, you don't have really valid points, but other than the crying, the tears, and the complaints that you're putting forward. Right. So we really need to hone and master the communication skills so that we can be very articulate. And also when we are pushing forward our ideas, people can really look into those ideas that they have substance and they're very valid. And that's how people are going to buy into our ideas. I wanted to respond to Eliza on the issue of that most times society asks women questions like, what do you bring on the table? I talk about this, and usually when I say that, I offend a lot of women. Nobody has ever come to me and asked me, what am I bringing on the table? Because the moment people start talking to me and listening to my conversation, they'll go on my social media and see what I post there. They won't even ask what I bring on the table, because they know that I'm the table. Actually, I should be the one asking them to say, what are you bringing on the table? And so there is a couple of things that as a woman need to think about. The first thing that I always tell people when they say that, I say, what did they see in you that they can really have the audacity to ask you that question? Because nobody can ever ask me that question to say, what are you bringing on the table? Because they know I'm the table. Is it something that we can turn around and flip to say, I don't want anyone ever to ask me, what am I bringing on the table? Or we can also be the first ones. Why should we wait for a guy to ask us, what are we bringing on the table? Ask them first. When you meet a man, the first thing that you ask them what are they bringing on the table? That way we flip the conversation. But all I'm saying is that, you know, when you begin to build yourself up and really to put that value and pour into yourself and that self-development, and, you know, you're working on your virtues, you're working on your specialized knowledge and communication and all that, no man and nobody in the world is ever gonna wonder what you're bringing on the table, because they will know when they meet you the first time. I wonder, I'm pausing right there. I wonder if there is any question or there is anyone with a comment before Pilirani continues. And Eliza, does that answer your question? Let's flip that. Let's flip that. Let's be the first people to ask men what they're bringing on our tables.
And actually, it's funny because sometimes they may not ask you like verbally, or they may not, come to you and ask you that. But by the way they act or the way they just look at you, you can sense it. You can feel it with your hands. Like, okay, this is what the environment is like. What this person is thinking about, what I'm bringing to the table. And I don't think we can avoid that, ladies and gentlemen. As far as we are born into this world, we are supposed to contribute something. We cannot just be free riders. We cannot be consumers only. We have to be producers as well, because there are kids that we are raising, there are people that we are looking up to us and stuff like that. The people that we need to feed. All right. So just that question as well is, how do you contribute? As I said before, it may not be said verbally, but actions may show that.
Absolutely. And so, Pilirani, I want you to continue because I have questions. and I'm like, I want to ask these questions, but go ahead first, finish what you have for us, and then I'll ask questions in the end. And I know that it's 1 o'clock, but we started late. So if people are okay to hang out a little bit more, that would be very great.
Okay.
But yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that when we spoke about this concept of creating value for yourself through the process of personal development, we are not talking about putting yourself in a position where you do not need a man. I think we were created with those natural instincts to want the other gender, to spend life with them, intimate moments and stuff like that. But I'm talking about putting yourself in a position where you do not 100% depend on a man for you to be okay in this world. I think once you put yourself in that position, it's bound to go wrong, because you cannot. I believe that one of the problems that we men have is we have not been successful in being disciplined to control our sexual desires. So most of us really struggle with that. You go out there, you see a different person, a person who's different from your woman, and then you start making moves and all that kind of stuff. So you cannot really trust or depend. I mean, you can only hope, but you cannot really depend that your existence is going to be staked on the availability or the faithfulness of this person. But you need to put yourself in a position where this person sees so much value in you that he does not even think about that. All right. So value, as I said, comes in so many ways. The amount of money that you're able to make. Not that we can judge you by the amount of money you make, but at least have some financial freedom, because I think that's the best thing that you ever do for yourself, having financial freedom, so that if you're going to need money from your husband, it has to be like a gift or something, but you can take care of yourself even if he's not around. All right. So, yeah, I think Ron, you're going to address that comment from Ron, but I just wanted to clarify that it's not about just eliminating the man from the equation, but it's about creating your own value, because I think our mothers really suffered a lot in this, because back in the days, the economic disparities were so huge that men were the only breadwinners, and then they had to come home and then take care of everything, and then they would beat on our women if they were not falling in line or this kind of stuff. But now the tide has shifted. Like, there are equal opportunities. We are all going to school. There are even organizations now that are just focusing on women. I think it's time that we can take advantage of that. There are books that we can both read, so that when we have conversations, we can have meaningful contributions from the books that we've read. You know what, babe, I was reading this book by Robin Sharma, and he was talking about 123cc, and the man would be like, oh, that's interesting. Can we try to put that? Not that when you just go there, all you can talk about is, Z World, or what this other celebrity has done, or what Dorothy Shonga and Zeze Kingston have done, all this kind of stuff that, that's going on into the world. I think that's one of the, when I talk to my friends especially, I don't know how the other conversations are, but I'm telling you guys, if you're a woman who just watches TV, if you're a woman who just watches like Kingstones or whatever it is, trust me, you're missing it. Because the guys, they may not tell you to your face, but they just think so low of you. And I know people who actually say, women who do this just have the lowest IQ. But some men that I know of, when I hang out with girls like who are studying, who are reading books, who are pushing several initiatives so that they can just become better people, and they can just contribute more to the society that we're living in, right? So I think let me let me stop there with these thoughts, with these few remarks, so that I think maybe we can give time for questions and comments.
I really love the flow of this conversation. I think it's something that we need to open up to and really hear. I hope that my fellow ladies on this platform are listening with positive mindset to understand and to hear. So I have a question in the comment section from Vera. So Vera says, what advice do you give to women who are trying to empower themselves as a priority before going into marriage? And do you agree on the stigma on women settling down before they reach 30 just for the sake of it?
Yeah, I would give flowers. I would give flowers to women who are actually working on themselves to become, independent in whatever area before they get into marriage. Like, that should be a priority. Actually, by the time you get married, you should be able, we push men to say, by the time you get married, you need to have this, you need to be self-sustaining so that you can support the woman. But the fact is, people are very unpredictable nowadays. You cannot predict how somebody's behavior is going to change even 2 years into the marriage. So as a woman, really push forward to be independent, to have value for yourself before you get into the marriage, so that when this nigga starts acting up, you can now say, you know what, I came here with my stuff, but also I'm capable of doing this because I have all these capabilities. Now I'm pushing it forward. I do agree there's some stigmas of women settling down before they are 30, but I may not speak to that because I'm not an expert on that psychology, but I do understand maybe the need to do that because maybe they're looking at the menopause timeline. They're looking at me, my body aging. I don't want to have kids when it's too late. So I would understand that. I think it would make sense maybe for that to happen under normal circumstances, but do not push that process forward because of your age. Because once you put that, they are settling down. They're just settling down for the sake of settling down, because my age clock is running out. I need to do this, just settle down. Never do that. It's bound to go wrong 90% of the time.
Yeah. Awesome. How do you, okay, Ron says men and women indeed need to have to start having more intellectual conversations. I totally agree with that. Kate says, how do you handle men that look down upon women, for example, in the workplace or business, because some men look at women as having lesser abilities? And I had a hand up from Tamandani, so maybe you can answer both. So Tamandani, go ahead, and then Pilirani would address the questions together.
Okay, so mine was not a question, mine was a comment, which I also learned from the other gender concerning the issue of character, which you mentioned about. So mostly as women, sometimes we don't know what we want. And I've seen it like when we're having conversations. So as a man, if you ask a man, oh, so what do you like about this person? A man will tell you, oh, I like her because she's smart. I like her because, or maybe she's very articulate. And sometimes you ask like us ladies, oh, what did you like about this person? And maybe the answer will just be like, oh, because he's nice, or I just like them. So I feel like in everything that men do, they are so intentional. A man will not just tell you, oh, I just like her, maybe just because the way she combs her hair. Like that would be like one of the least things. So, and also I feel like, yeah, we can even test this as women when we're having conversations with the other gender. Just asking, what do you like about this person? And mostly the intellectual part will be included. So just to add that, also men look at this intellect part and take it really seriously. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So go ahead, Pilirani, how do you handle men that look down upon women?
So there is, as I was opening the conversation, I was talking about the sentiments that I get from men just by chatting in informal spaces where people are honest, right? Most men look at women, okay, maybe not most, but many men look at women as sexual objects. And that is a fact, because you look at the comments that whenever a woman passes by and all this kind of stuff, they look at them as sexual objects, right? But I believe women and men have the potential to have similar capabilities, not similar, even like exact same capabilities. The way a man can talk, women can even do it better, right? But one of the reasons why that contributes to this is that actually some of those women are actually having lesser abilities because they did not work on themselves when they came into the workplace or into the business space. And it's right for that man to look down on that woman because that's what it is. Like, you cannot force yourself to overvalue somebody. If somebody shows you who they are, you have to believe them, right? So if I'm working with a person who is not reading books, like if you're having conversations and she just goes different ways, I mean, I would be justified in looking down upon that woman. But there are certain women, there are certain men who just have this stigmatization of women. Say, oh, women in general are like lesser human beings. They don't have enough capabilities as us as men. I think that is completely wrong type of thinking, because I've been in a room with women and I've just been flabbergasted by the substance, the level of substance that is coming across the table. Like, wow, who is this person? So I think it's wrong just to say look down on women in general at the workplace or business space, because a lot of women will surprise you. Like, here Talk on Joloma is right here hosting this thing under We Inspire, a very beautiful brand, right? If you have conversations with her, I think even just for an hour, you would have taken away so much substance from what she has to offer. But then you sit down with certain women and just be like, oh my God, what is this? And I think those women deserve what they go through, all right, because they do not take care of themselves. Sorry to say that.
We'll ban you from here. Just kidding. Yeah, but I think the fact is that as women, we need to begin to think about these things. Yesterday, there was a very interesting talk about traumas and all. And one of the comments that I made is that sometimes we need to listen. When people are placing judgments and saying things about us other than just being upset, we need to go back home and sit down and to say, why did that person talk like that about me? What is it that I showed them that made them think about that about me? I think when we begin to ask ourselves those questions, it's the same with treatment in a relationship. I am shameless to share about my personal journey that I was in a very abusive marriage, right? And I got divorced. I talk about that a lot. But when I got out of that, I began a journey of reflecting and thinking and asking myself questions to say, what did I show that man that made him think that he could treat me that way? And that changed the whole conversation and mindset about who I look at myself and the actions that I needed to take from there onwards. And I said, no other man is going to treat me like that ever, because I'm going to build myself and I'm going to increase my value and I'm going to do A, B, C, and D so that nobody can ever do that ever again to me. So I think as women, we need to begin to when people are mistreating us, right? I know that there are men who are just so bad. They are mannerless and everything that you can call them. But in that, there is also a message to say, what access have you given them? Or what have you showed them to say it's okay to treat me like that? Why it's okay to say that to me? What have you done? You need to take responsibility other than just being upset. Yeah, we need to get upset because nobody deserves to be ill-treated. But after that, go back home and start thinking about, what did I do? Or what can I do?
Very, very true. I just posted that that's the highest sense of self-respect. I think as a woman, the first thing you need to respect yourself. Put yourself at the highest level of respect so that nobody would have a reason to look down upon you or to make like these, useless comments. Maybe somebody you dress in a way and then people are passing by and then make these stupid comments about your sexuality and stuff like that. I think that really just sets the tone for how people can treat you as a woman. Of course, you may not be able to control how people are going to talk. You're not going to be, you can only hope that but the people that know you, the people that know who you are as a woman, what level of confidence, of substance, of contributions you bring in whatever space you find yourself, they cannot be given that platform to treat you or look down upon you just because you have worked on yourself and become the best possible version that you can be.
Absolutely. So Let me see if there is anything else. Nelly asked, how can we access the recording? The recording will be on our YouTube channel. Where can we have these similar conversations? That's Ron, because he thinks that this deserves a proper channel or platform. Maybe Ron, you need to come back here for another episode of this conversation. I really like this, and really, I think we need to call more men to come into the conversation and really talk about this. And Ron says, trauma and neglect, women face most neglect in our societies, and they are continuously disrespected. That's very true. But I think women need to begin to take control of the situations and being responsible as well. We cannot be victims for a long time or forever. We need to stand up for ourselves. And the one way we stand up for ourselves is what Pilirani has shared with us today. So Pilirani, I just wanted you to quickly share about your startups. I'm interested on the, I know that you run a book club, right? Tell us about that.
So the book club is under an initiative that is called Soar to Infinity. And actually me and my fiancée, who I'm getting married to this month, are the ones
You
that
better
came up.
invite us.
No, I'm sending the invite just now, this way. I'm sending at the end. Yeah. So we came together and say, you know what? There are so many people who would like to get books, but the books are now expensive. Like if you get a good book, it's 20K above. So what if we can invest into that and say, you know what, we just buy these books and then not sell them out, but lend them out. But these books have got to be about self-development, personal development, so that when the person finishes reading that book, they have gotten something out of it that is going to help them contribute something or push themselves on a higher level. So we came up with that idea, and we started talking to other people who are like-minded, and we came together and started a community of like-minded people where we meet on a monthly basis. So we choose a book. For example, last month's book was like women are from Mars, men are from Venus. No, vice versa, right? So we just talking about. You have that book. Nice.
I love it.
So,
Yeah.
so we just talk about the things, the different themes on a monthly basis. The previous month was Think and Grow Rich, just talking about how we can elevate ourselves to be better financially, because that's always what we are going to struggle with. So that's the book club. It focuses on personal development. We have a number of personal development coaches under that sort of initiatives that just help people on the side to come together and say, you know what, I have this problem. Maybe I'm not consistent in pushing for my goals. Maybe I fail to write a to-do list every day, or maybe I fail to concentrate on things, or I don't know what to do in terms of becoming a better version of myself. So we do have personal development coaches that provide those kind of services. And now what we want to start doing is these mastermind groups under the Soar to Infinity initiatives, where you can have 3 to 5 people that can just hold each other accountable and say, you know what, I have this problem in terms of becoming a better version. How can you help me? Or can you hold me accountable? I have this goal that I would like to push forward, and I would like somebody to hold me accountable, because if nobody is available, I am not going to do it, judging from past experiences. So basically, that's what Soar to Infinity is all about. We do provide that through the website. We do have a website and a mobile application as well. And through these talks that we do through the book club that are held on a monthly basis.
I like that. And for me personally, I've gotten a lot of value from books. I read one book every month, and that's my goal. Yeah, so I value books quite a lot. And so how can we access, how can we be part of the book club? How does it work for someone to join? How can we find you?
So we do have a WhatsApp group where we post all the updates, but I think I'll just share a number so that maybe you can talk to that person in the chat. I'll just share it there.
Yeah,
and
please.
then you can just talk to that person who manages the book club.
And anyone from any part of the country can join your book club, and we can borrow books. I mean, within Malawi. Or
So
is it?
that's a little tricky because of the cost involved. For example, so we just charge 4,000 kwacha per month. So if you're in Blantyre, we have to factor in the transportation cost. And also, if somebody decides to default and not return the book, it's becoming a bit of a challenge because then we cannot track somebody who is in Blantyre. But at least in Lilongwe, it's a little easier. So what we have started doing is for other organizations, for people who are working in other organizations, apart from Lilongwe, we do go through the organization. So the organization is the one that subscribes to the book service, and then their employees can get them through the organization, because it will be easier for the organization to keep this person accountable.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. But I really love that initiative, and I hope that you can have maybe like branches in other parts of the country as well. I'm thinking about people in the north. It's very difficult to access even like a decent library up north. I've been to Nzimba, to Nzuzu. It's very difficult. So if you can bring that service up there, that would be really awesome.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely in the plans. I think we just want to get a little bit more investment in terms of getting more books. We are thinking of opening another one in Blantyre, because one of our personal development coaches is based there. So like, I know if you're there, you can manage people from that side. You can also have your separate side meetings for the book club there, Zomba and Zuzu. Yeah, so definitely, I think that's something that we need to expedite.
I'm rooting for you on that. Finally, I just wanted to ask, how can we connect with you? What handles do you use on your social media? LinkedIn? Are you on LinkedIn, Facebook?
So unfortunately, I'm only on LinkedIn, and I use that handle that I shared. It's at PK. I do have a website also, which is pk.space. Don't judge me on the pictures that are there. Still trying to work in progress. But that's the website. Those who would like to get in touch.
www.pk.space, right?
.space, yes.
Okay, good. All right.
My number is also available on WhatsApp, so we can connect there.
Awesome. No, thank you so much, Pilirani. I want to give you a chance to say your final word, and then I'll wrap up.
All right. Thank you so much for everybody who spared their time to come and have this session. I believe that as human beings, man, we are made of so much. We are made of so much that we can do in this world, and with the resources that are available out there, we need to do the best that we can to live out to that potential. Whoever you believe created you, or however you came to be here, I think there's a reason why we are here. So we cannot waste that existence. It doesn't matter if you're a woman, if you're a man, but the fact that you have a brain, you have capabilities that you can do these things. Do not waste your time here on planet Earth. Use the best opportunities that you can to grow yourself into the best version of yourself, and do the best that you can to push others as well, because just by you being the best version of yourself, you automatically start inspiring other people to also become better people. And imagine that effect just multiplies until we become a perfect world at the end. So thank you so much for this time. Let's connect after this one. And also, yes, I'm inviting all of you to my wedding. I'm getting married on the 28th of April to a beautiful lady named Doreen. I think she's also on the call, I think, here to support Daddy. So yeah, getting married is at Mabomba Gardens in Area 43, and you are all welcome to come.
Oh, Doreen is here. She's claiming her territory right here. Thank you so much for the support, Doreen. And thank you so much, Pilirani, for sharing with us. I think this has been one of the most candid conversations that we've had, but I've really enjoyed every bit of it. And congratulations on your upcoming wedding. We're looking forward to it. Share pictures after. I really want to thank everyone else on here for being very engaging and for being participatory. And I hope that I'll see you again in the next one that we are going to have. And I wish you all the best, and may God bless you.